just because CrowdStrike is a publicly traded company, they're a large company, and the fact that something this monumental slipped through the cracks, I do think that there might be insider threats involved. How's it going, everyone? Cody Bernardi here with another YouTube video, and in today's video, I will be talking about that lovely internet-wide outage yesterday caused by CrowdStrike. Now, I'm not going to get really technical in this video because there's plenty of content out there for that. And I was actually on PTO this week, and I found out about this because of an old coworker asking, how am I handling the CrowdStrike thing without any further context? So I'm just going to take this opportunity to talk about what CrowdStrike is, like what those tools are, why it's impacting the entire world, it seemed like. Hopefully it's not, it's slowly being remediated. Who knows? I honestly couldn't tell you. It sounds like a nightmare and a half. And I'll be sharing some resources and all of that. And I'm also learning stuff about what's going on, like channel files and stuff like that. I work in cybersecurity, but I don't do DevOps or anything like that. So what is CrowdStrike, or what is an EDR, and why did it cause airports and hospitals and such like that to go offline for a significant amount of time? So the way that CrowdStrike, or let me talk about what CrowdStrike is. So CrowdStrike is a security company. They provide all this stuff like threat intelligence, EDR, vulnerability management, a whole suite of things. And their whole, I guess, their main product is called the CrowdStrike Falcon. And the CrowdStrike Falcon is basically a piece of software installed on endpoints, part of endpoint detection and response, EDR, where it scans for things like users logged in, software installed, registry information, GPO. I mean, just the list goes on and on. It is quite literally like the most privileged thing on your system other than system 30 or system level user and root. It runs at that level. So it gathers all this information and sends it back to their cloud or their console for the security team at your company to analyze and do what they need to do. So it runs on your computer. There's a certain cadence to it, every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, every minute. Really depends on how it's set up. And the way it works is at that like interval where it's checking in back into the CrowdStrike cloud, it's making a TCP handshake, and with that, with the manifest that it sends out of all the information on that host, the CrowdStrike cloud will say that there is an update for that agent, and the agent will initiate a download and update itself in the background. So on July 19th, early in the morning, there was a software update for certain channels. And from the definition of Honest Dwayne, I'll put a clip of what he says here.
These companies, especially the large ones, large enterprise companies, tend to group their customers in different channels. And so as a result of that, they've gone out of their way to say, okay, fine. When we do an update, it goes on this sales channel, which is linked to this update channel.
But basically, certain companies that were running this vulnerable version, I'll say vulnerable loosely, a version of CrowdStrike Falcon 7.11 and above, I think that's what the versioning is, was impacted by this if the host checked in between this 1 hour time slot. Now, if you work in any sort of security operations center, you know that these agents are checking in very frequently, so frequently that you're able to remotely access some systems through what's called the CrowdStrike RTR, which is the real-time response, where it allows the security operations center to remotely access a host and actually run PowerShell scripts and such like that on it. So pretty much anything that had the CrowdStrike Falcon, unless some settings were changed, were impacted by this if they were part of these specific channels. I believe it's a sales channel, if I understand this correctly. And they were running this specific version. So it downloaded this bad software update and it bricked the system. It caused what we call a BSOD, blue screen of death, And that's basically the equivalent of like an Xbox 360 red ring of death. You absolutely do not want that to happen to you. So what failed here? Like, why did this happen? And why did this happen on a Friday? Well, I cannot answer the latter, why they're pushing software updates on a Friday. That is like the unwritten, or I would say written rule in software development. You do not push to prod on Friday. That is like the most ridiculous thing ever. You're going to piss everybody off doing that. And there's that graph of the FAFO. They effed around and they found out. So unfortunately, that's what happened. I don't know why they did it on a Friday, but typically, and I've been part of this a little bit, but I can't really explain QA too much because it's not my job. But the whole process when you push out a software update is you want to make a change. And my experience has always been through Git. So let's say there's the main line and I want to make a change. So I make my own branch. So I'll say, hey, this is the code that I want to edit. Let me make a branch off of mainline, do my change, and make a commit and push it for review for my peers to look at, test, and all of that. And they give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, they make comments, whatever the case is. And let's say I have like 4 approvers. They all say, yep, good to go. I merge it into mainline and push it out to production or dev, whatever that looks like. In this case, the Crowdstrike Falcon is a customer product. This is their bread and butter. This is the holy grail of Crowdstrike. Everything is built on top of the Crowdstrike Falcon. They obviously have their threat intelligence division, which they do their own stuff, but pretty much everything about Crowdstrike requires that Falcon sensor to be on a host. And then they build the vulnerability management, the advanced timeline search stuff, the EDR stuff, the like stopping malicious processes from running on a host. All that requires the Falcon. So the fact that they pushed out a bad software update, which if it went through QA, I don't know how this wasn't found, because this literally impacted like multiple industries. It'd be a little different if it was like a couple companies like might have been impacted by this. Like even then, that's still a bad look. The fact that this impacted everybody shows that there was a significant failure in QA testing, all of that stuff. And it was pushed out somehow. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on right now. Just because Crowdstrike is a publicly traded company, they're a large company, and the fact that something this monumental slipped through the cracks, I do think that there might be insider threats involved. I honestly do. Because unfortunately, there's not a single company out here, including government agencies, that are not going to be impacted by insider threats. Especially a company the size of Crowdstrike, where their reach is this significant. It only takes a bad insider threat team with malicious intent to get hired on with well-intended purposes to completely nuke the company's reputation and take down pretty much America and other countries. This is my tinfoil hat. It's going to sit in the back of my mind because I keep thinking about SolarWinds. What was that, 2019, 2020? I can't even remember. It's been too long. Too many large-scale stuff. So that's sitting in the back of my mind. Now, thankfully, they've confirmed that this is not a cyber attack, or that their cloud console is not impacted. So that's a good thing. I've never thought that any sensitive information was disclosed from this. However, unfortunately, this was quite literally the largest denial of service attack we've ever witnessed. I honestly don't even have words like how colossal this is. So let's just get into it a little bit more. So if you are running in the cloud, so if you're running in GCP, Google Cloud Platform, AWS, Microsoft Azure, you should be counting your lucky stars that you are in the cloud. And if you are on-prem IT team, you might need to come up with use cases as to why you should stay on-prem, because in the cloud, it is a fairly easy fix. I don't know if they have it on this particular page, But basically, you just make a snapshot of your environment, remove the bad sys file that they list all over the place, this sys file right here, and then you spin up a new instance, and you're gravy. You're good to go. Or you just roll back previous snapshots and run off of that. Now, you can obviously do that on-prem, like if you create snapshots, like if you're running Docker and all of that, like you could roll back and do that. But if you are not as lucky with that, like let's say you're a hospital or you're running an industrial control system, like a conveyance system where it's just running off of like a Windows server, whatever, you are going to have to physically go up to that system and reboot it. And VX Underground, lovely individuals, they kind of boiled it down for us. So you boot Windows into safe mode. So that requires the system to come offline, to reboot into safe mode, go to the C drive and go to the drivers folder with Crowdstrike, delete this particular sys file, repeat for every host in your enterprise, including remote workers. So that, yes, that includes laptops and such like that. And then the very last one, number 5, talks about BitLocker. So BitLocker is disk encryption, which basically means that in order to boot the operating system, you need a code to decrypt the hard drive. And that sounds like a nightmare and a half. Now, when I was in the military, we used BitLocker on every single system that we worked on. Like if it turned off or updates or whatever, we would have to punch in the BitLocker code. We kept that in a safe location and all of that. But this is something you physically have to type into a keyboard. You can't go into Bitwarden or LastPass. Well, I don't know why you'd use that, but you get my point. You can't copy paste. You will have to physically type in a password to unlock the hard drive that will then allow you to boot Windows. So that sounds like a nightmare and a half. So what can CrowdStrike do in the future? And what can you do in the future to prevent something like this? Well, if I was to give advice, I would say, you should absolutely have some sort of security sensor on your network. But there are compensating controls that you can do. So let's say that you are running a conveyance system, right? And its simple function is to run an exe file to have like an HMI, human machine interface. And it doesn't need to do anything else. It doesn't need to connect to the internet outbound, not saying inbound, that's crazy, but just outbound to receive Windows updates or anything like that. You probably don't need CrowdStrike on it at all. Like if it's literally Ethernet cord cut, all that, you don't need CrowdStrike on it. You don't need CrowdStrike on it even if it has access outbound to the internet. Like there's so many different risks and controls that you can do to prevent this from happening in the future in your enterprise. Like if you're running like business critical like system stuff where you have, customers and people coming into your network, they're accessing your servers, you should absolutely have something like the CrowdStrike agent on it. If you have, like, again, I'll use conveyance systems because this took down random things around the world. Like you have these systems that require Windows for whatever reason, but no one's touching it. It's simply just running a file. You can put this behind a firewall, multiple firewalls. You can VLAN it. You can restrict local access to it. You can restrict plugging in USB stuff. Like it won't read, like when you plug in a USB into the system, it won't read it, won't do anything with it. You don't need CrowdStrike on that. But unfortunately, because some people think that you need an EDR on everything in their network for just strictly visibility, they're impacted by this. So in the future, what you can do is if you still want to maintain a CMDB, is to just do normal scanning. Tenable, Nmap, whatever you want to do, just scan your network and see what's responding and make note of the host name. And it's like, yeah, we have this file or these hosts over here that don't have CrowdStrike, but we have this list of compensating controls in place, and that's fine. However, hindsight's 2020. This is going to be a lesson for a lot of businesses, but you should absolutely have an EDR across your organization, especially on laptops. This was just unprecedented. It was unpredictable. Like there wasn't anything any company did incorrectly other than CrowdStrike in this case. So it just sucks in general. So I'll put a list of resources down below if you're struggling with this. I do have some friends in incident response for consulting. If you need any cybersecurity incident response, use the link down below. I'll get you in contact. We'll talk about all that stuff. But this is an IT problem at the end of the day. So this sucks. I'll salute everyone in IT. I graduated from that a few years back. So yeah. And then also I can hear the neckbeards like, oh, this is why you should be on Linux. That's great. So anyways, that is it for this video. If y'all enjoy content like this, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button with the bell notification enabled so you get notified anytime I post a new video. I start the Firefighting Academy in 9 days. Thank you very much for the claps. I'll be a little bit busy doing that. Pretty tired, I'm assuming, with all the physical fitness that's going to be going on, but I'm excited for that. Yeah, I have a couple videos in the oven right now. I have a video OSINT deep dive. I have this book that I'm reading by Ray Baker right now, and I'll go and cherry pick some of my favorite bits out of it and talk about that, of course. I have a video about browser add-ons for OSINT. I think that would be a great, phenomenal resource for y'all. OSINT VM review. I've actually never used the Tracelabs VM. OSINT browser add-ons. OSINT Techniques book by Michael Bazell. That's another one that I haven't talked about. Public record OSINT. I have a bunch of shorts I want to do, and TikTok OSINT. I got a lot. I just got to film it and not be so busy all the time. So anyways, that is it for this video. Y'all take care. Goodbye.